players. Now, obviously in hindsight, knowing injuries and things like that, I am going to take injuries sort of out, not completely out of the conversation because they could be injury-prone players, but there are players on here who have gotten hurt really badly and basically ruined their trajectory on their career. Now, this isn't saying, if they got drafted by a different team, they wouldn't have gotten injured, this or that. It's just saying, at their peak, could this player be, a franchise cornerstone, like championship leading guy, basically is what I'm saying. So, when I grade these guys, it's sort of about at their peak, and also taking into consideration, injury prone, how they are, how they played, how they developed, things like that. So keep that in mind. And there will be some gum chewing in this video and some other triggers. So hopefully you guys like that. And yeah, that's basically it. So hopefully you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, let's get started. Okay, taking a look at what we got going on here. We always have a vast selection of players, and having to rank them based off of at least their potential, how they came out, how their games developed, things like that, from S to D tier. And I'm just going to go in order from which they have them. And the first guy they have here could be in A tier all on his own, and that is LeBron James. No duh, LeBron is an S tier player. He is arguably the greatest player of all time, best player of all time, just an absolute beast. Not only was he, a beast in his prime, he also has just carried on a great, track sheet of being a very healthy player, very reliable player, things like that. Obviously now he's hurt right now in real life, but at almost 40 years old, you can't really blame the guy, So, LeBron, I feel like he would be the number one overall pick in an entire NBA Legends draft. If we could redraft every player that's ever played the NBA ever, LeBron potentially probably could go number one overall just because of how reliable he is, not only health-wise, but just as a player and the way he changed, his game for so long, being such a athletic, dominant guy to now more of a finesse type of player in his older age. If this guy, is on your team, you're a title contender, and that's pretty great. So definitely putting him in S tier. Next up, we have Dwight Howard. Wow, this is actually kind of a tough one. Being drafted number one overall to the Orlando Magic and then LeBron, obviously, to Cleveland. I think Dwight is a great player, and I don't think he can go anywhere under than B. But honestly, man, I might have to go. I would go A, but I might just stay B. Dwight Howard, obviously, with a lot of injuries, I'm sort of not really taking those into consideration in this video, not a whole lot, but obviously, a player heavily invested in athleticism isn't the greatest thing. So that's why I'm going to put him in B tier. He also plays a very old style of basketball. Now, obviously, if Dwight Howard played in the 90s, or maybe even the earlier 2000s, Dwight Howard is, the perfect, probably best big man in that era. So, he played the game a very old school, rugged way, and it caught up to him, having a lot of injuries and setbacks, not really being able to develop into a new age center until, obviously, nowadays, on the Lakers last year, he played amazing rim runner above the rim. That's how he should have been playing this entire career, but didn't really get much of a mid-range game in him or any type of shooting game at all. So obviously the league changed very fast, and he sort of was left in the dust. So I think obviously peak Dwight on the Orlando Magic is a great player, and that makes me want to put him in A. Plus defensively he was a great player, but I think just the way he played is still sort of old school, and I just don't really think I really see him at the level. I could move him, and I might move him, but I'll put him there for now. Next up, we have Derrick Rose. Wow, this one is just the toughest as he was going down the road. You feel me? So I'm not gonna go anywhere above this. I could go lower because just like Dwight, he played a very old school type of game where it's just very based off of athleticism, kind of like a Russell Westbrook player, but without the rebounding ability. But as we can see now with Derrick Rose in this new age of basketball, he has developed a very reliable jump shot. Now imagine if Derrick Rose, maybe got less hurt, still was able to, develop a reliable three-point shot. That is a super scary sort of combination of a player. So, taking what I saw him from his prime, taking what from I see him now, I think as a first overall pick, was he like an absolute bust of a player? Not really, but his potential, I think that he was a good first overall pick. Like, if you were going back in that draft and picking him overall, redoing history again, I think he still would go number one overall, even though, you can't really affect his, health and anything like that. But if we were redoing that draft, all the players were 100% healthy, you would pick Derrick Rose. So that's why I'm doing that. Next up, we have Magic, and obviously Magic Johnson, another GOAT in himself. Magic Johnson, just an absolute great player. Another player who would probably go top 5, top 10 in an entire NBA Legends, draft, fantasy draft type ordeal. One of the greatest passers of all time, one of the greatest showrunners of all time. Like, you wanted this man on your team so badly. I'm sure everyone did back in the day. Just an absolute floor general. So I think obviously with that and the way he pretty much put the Lakers on the map was really, 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 really great. He could probably do that for any franchise. So honestly, as a first overall pick, again, you could not go wrong with picking Magic Johnson for sure. Next we have Blake, and I think for Blake, I'm gonna go B. Definitely Blake was a superstar and still, had superstar potential, being arguably the best power forward in the league at a certain point in time, being an absolute dominant dunker in the league, but also just very, very, very explosive. But again, sort of like Dwight, is sort of relying on that a bit too much, and it caught up with him, getting injuries and things like that. But as we see nowadays, well, maybe not currently, because on the Nets he's not looking too hot, or even in this current year he's not really looking that great. But in the past, we've seen Blake Griffin grow into more of a stretch four, adding a somewhat reliable three-point shot to his game. He's adding more of an offense than just his athleticism. So again, sort of like with Derrick Rose, if he would have added that to his game, plus still having, the health, if, luck was on his side, that is not a bad first overall pick whatsoever. I still don't think the Clippers really wasted their number one overall pick on Blake. I think Blake was the right pick. He was a great piece. It's just that the Clippers just honestly had very bad luck, it seemed, all the time. So not a wasted first pick. I think he's a really good player, and he probably could have been obviously a little bit higher, but I think down here, just pretty much, only a very highly athletic player. Not really much after that. Next up, we have Ralph Sampson. Wow. Ralph Sampson, that's a really good one. Could definitely be an A style of player, but I'm going to go B. He definitely is somewhat of a more new age center. He did have some sort of a mid-range game. He was still a very big guy, but still had a lot of finesse in his game. And obviously with the Houston Rockets being, a dominant team in the later 80s, 90s teams as well, like the Rockets were very blessed to have two very good big men that it looks like we're going to be talking about later on. But he's definitely not a C-tier player. I think he's definitely above average. I couldn't see him being, a great of all time, but being a very good player, very good first overall pick, really helped out that Houston Rockets franchise. I think definitely B is a good one. Now we have Grandmama Larry Johnson. I'm gonna go C. I know Larry Johnson at one point in time was a very good player, but I don't really want to put him in these guys' tier, because these guys' tiers were, arguably the best at their position during a certain point in time. these other players, I don't think they were the wrong pick at all. I think all these guys were the right first overall picks, but man, Larry Johnson, that's a very questionable one. Next up, we have James Worthy, big game James. That's awesome. I think definitely B. I mean, he could definitely go A. I think the only thing that really held back James Worthy in his career was that he was on such a good team with Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, he got drafted number 1 by the Lakers. Ralph obviously to the Rockets to play Clippers, and I think Larry Johnson may have gotten drafted by a different team, but was in his prime the most in Charlotte. I'm not entirely sure, but was drafted by the Lakers. The Lakers drafted earlier, like I think 3 or 4 years ago, drafted Magic. So they got Magic, then they got Big Game James. They obviously got Kareem, and I think James was the third man out on that sort of that big three they had. But I mean, if you look up James Worthy's stats, he easily could have been the best player on a lot of different teams in that sort of era of later 80s basketball. But still a very good player. I don't think it was the wrong pick. Obviously, it got, Magic and the Lakers 5 titles, so I don't think that was the wrong pick. But again, I mean, man, I could even go A. I could go A because, man, James Worthy could have, like I said, he could have been a superstar on his own. But I think the fit and where he went, his career, his legacy, everything like that, the way he played the game, man, they call him Big Game James for a reason. Like, this dude was an absolute beast. So I'll keep him B for now. I might have to switch it up a little bit, but that's not a bad tier listing right there. Next up, we have Kwame Brown, and Kwame, I'm sorry, man, but you're gonna be our first D tier guy. Kwame is probably the first guy on this list where that I know of, injury didn't play a part in his sort of career, his progress, his potential, anything. It's just that it didn't work out, and that does happen in the NBA where players just don't work out, and that just happened for Kwame Brown, and it's really sad, but he still had a very long career in the NBA, which isn't anything to be sad about, and he was the first overall pick, so you always have that to sort of hang on your shoulders. But the potential of Kwame was just not there. He played good in high school, and he came out from high school, and it didn't go well. I think he definitely probably was the wrong pick, and that's totally fine. That happens in NBA history, but Kwame is the first player on there I feel like that just didn't have it, which sucks and happens, but I didn't really see him as being, really anything was kind of sad, but I think Kwame, we can all sort of agree on being a D-tier guy, no offense. Allen Iverson, wow. Oh man, this is tough. I mean, I really want to put AIA. I really, really, really want to put Allen Iverson A, just because the fact that he dragged a very poorly Philadelphia 76ers team to an NBA Finals to only get beaten by one of the greatest teams of all time, Kobe, Shaq, Lakers. If you gave Allen Iverson one more All-Star on that team, that would be a very probably different story, at least in my opinion. Oh man, the only thing is, do I really see him above like a Ralph Sampson or a Dwight Howard? Because Dwight also is a player that led his team to the NBA Finals. Ralph Sampson as well. Oh man, if I put Allen Iverson here, I might have to move Dwight there. You know what? I'll keep it like this for now. I mean, Allen Iverson was the MVP. He led the league in scoring. Like, I don't think I could really take that away from him. I'm gonna keep Allen Iverson there for now. I mean, he's definitely, again, if he just would have had a little extra help on those Sixers teams, like, he probably would have gotten a championship for sure. But just didn't happen. But man, the way he played, the way he led an offense, the way he just controlled absolute cornerstone for a team in NBA history, man. Like, he could be your best player, your smartest player, your locker room leader, like, for real. Like, he just absolute all-around great player. So I don't really think I could put him anything lower. I might, but we'll have to see. But man, Hakeem the Dream, dude, like, that is a great first overall pick for Houston. Obviously, giving them 2 titles, like, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. We have Patrick Ewing now. Patrick Ewing being drafted by the New York Knicks, and then we have Houston Rockets, Philadelphia 76ers. I think that's all I have to say. And then the Lakers was Kwame. I think the Lakers drafted, no. Maybe. I'm trying to remember. Was it Lakers or was it Clippers? Something like that. But yeah, Patrick Ewing, I think A is a good tier for him. Again, just like Allen Iverson, just needed a little bit extra help on those New York Knicks teams. Obviously, they had John Starks, but hey, 6'2" shooting guard John Starks isn't really gonna win you a championship. But you have to face up, against the Jordan Bulls and players from teams like that. So, I think him and AI sort of have that sort of thing in common, but also just a dominant player, arguably the best center in the league at one point in time. Just absolutely just carrying a team, a franchise, basically. Definitely not a bad first overall pick. David Robson, same boat. I mean, David Robson, you could argue being an S tier because, man, he was a beast in himself. The dude scored 71 points as a center in an NBA game. Helped Spurs sort of help build their dynasty. Obviously, later on adding a player that we will talk about later on in this video. But David Robson, absolute class act. Just a great player. And even at the best of his best, again, arguably the best center in the NBA during his time. That's a very easy one. Next up, we have Anthony Bennett, and again, Anthony, sort of on the same boat as Kwame Brown. His basketball skills got to where he was, but as an NBA player, just wasn't a good fit for basically any team he really went on. Cleveland Cavaliers, I don't know why they drafted Anthony Bennett. That was such a left field sort of pickup from them, but they drafted him, which really wasn't a bad thing, but definitely not the right move, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to put Anthony Bennett at D. Next up here we have the Golden State Warrior drafted overall number 1, Chris Webber. And I think C-Web, definitely at least C. I kind of want to go B, but man, look at these B tier guys. I mean, dang, actually, oh man, I kind of want to move Blake to C and C-Web to B because Chris Webber, man, oh my god, those Sacramento Kings games back in the day, man, I don't know. When comparing Blake and C-Web, like I think I would obviously rather take Chris Webber in his prime than probably Blake in his prime, honestly, because C-Web, man, he was a dog, man. That's so tough. And like, Chris Webber was a better player than Larry Johnson, no doubt about it, but is he on the same tier as like a prime Dwight who led a team to a title run? And then you have obviously Ralph Sampson, a great player, obviously could almost be A tier, Big Game James. Man, that is so tough. So tough. I don't know. Oh my god. I'll leave him here for now. I probably will move him. I just need to see a little bit more proof and stuff of whether these players are going, but wow, that's a really tough one. Now, we have Mr. Mystery Player right here. That does not help me whatsoever. I'm thinking it's Derrick Coleman. From my research that I did, I think it's Derrick Coleman. And if it is Derrick Coleman at one point in time was a pretty decent player. If you've seen his stats and how he played in some other places like New Jersey, he had a very decent sort of career, and that's why, you know what, I think I'm moving C-Web up. I don't want to put C-Web anywhere near these guys. C-Web was a leader of a team that should have made an NBA Finals. I'm going to put him there. But Derrick Coleman, I think that's Derrick Coleman. I knew he played for the Sixers with this jersey on, but man, it's just half a face. I have no idea. But Derrick Coleman, pretty solid career, not bad. Elton Brand, again, a player, very solid career, not that bad. Was an all-star, I think, maybe multiple times, but when we're comparing first overall picks, you really want a player who can help carry a team and build a team around. reason I'm just putting him in D. No offense. I think it's Glenn Robinson Sr. I don't know. I literally just don't know. Right here, obviously though, Tim Duncan, boom, bam, pow. Obviously S tier, dude. 5-time NBA champion, lived and breathed in the NBA playoffs. An absolute IQ off the charts player. Obviously a coach nowadays, which explains a lot, dude. Tim Duncan, dude, that's just an easy S tier player. You would love to have Tim Duncan on your team because he is just, a great locker room presence guy. Very calm to himself, a great leader. He even had a voice in playing games, like literally just an all-around just great player, man. I could easily average, 20 and 15, 20 and 10 easily, like just, man, I can't say enough about Tim Duncan. That's just an easy gimme at S. Andrew Wiggins, even though Andrew Wiggins' career isn't over, and I think his potential was somewhat lost, I think he is definitely C. Now his potential is definitely, up off the charts. I mean, I think a lot of what he went through earlier on in his career with Cleveland, getting traded and things like that, I think, he's not a bad player. He's a really, he's a really good offensive player. That's really all I can say. When he gets hot, he can probably score like 40 points in an NBA game. Like he gets it going pretty easily. But everything else is very below average, but it never really sort of lived up to his full potential. But I think he's still a stud. But then again, as a first overall pick, not a player you can really help build around. So that's that. Anthony Davis, my God, he is definitely an S tier potential player, but I'm gonna put him A. Cause man, we saw it in New Orleans. He obviously needed help, which obviously all players need help. But man, I don't know. An S tier player. I'll just leave him A. I think A's a really good spot for him for how his career is turning out. It can be better. Still a player who can help, almost lead a title contending team. I mean, look at the Lakers last year. You could argue Anthony Davis should have been Finals MVP of the title run they had, but I think this is a good spot for him for sure. Kyrie, I think Kyrie's at least B. Very good star, easily, the number 2 option on a championship contending team, obviously with the LeBron James Cleveland team, easily averaging 27, 28 points per game. Like he's just a scorer, a good player to have on your team. Obviously with the whole Boston situation wasn't really the greatest showing, and I do believe he cannot be the best player on a title contending team, but can definitely be a very, very good piece to a puzzle. John Wall. With John Wall, oh man, again with like the whole Derrick Rose thing, if injuries were on his side more, that's the thing. Like, I don't know, man. I really don't know. I might put him B because it did end up being a pretty good career for John Wall, and the only thing that's really holding him back was his athleticism and his lack of ability to sort of do and perform an outside game, which is why I put Derrick Rose over that, because he actually nowadays has a pretty decent outside game. John Wall does not. He's still relying mostly on his speed and quickness, which is good. It can get the job done, but nothing super great. I think he's a good player, and I don't really want to put him on the same level as like a Ralph Sampson or James Worthy. But again, we're trying to think about his potential and how he was at his peak, how he is now, sort of tying everything together. He's a very good, solid overall pick, I think. Greg Oden, obviously, being a Blazer fan, I know a lot about this, but I'm going to go C. I think even at peak Greg Oden, even if he never did get injured, sure, he would have been like a multiple-time All-Star and this and that, but I don't really see him being a player like a big piece to a championship puzzle like these players all were. I mean, Dwight led a team, Ralph, Big Game James, C-Web, even Kyrie, helping LeBron's team, being the second go-to guy on a championship-winning team. Like, man, that's just, at least in my opinion, he was a really good player, and he would have been a multiple-time All-Star. He would have, had a great career, but I don't know. That's a tough one. It's definitely not a wasted first overall pick. It definitely was the right pick at the right time for Portland. They needed a big. They drafted the best big. It just happened to be an injury-prone big. But I think even at his peak, I don't really know if he would have been, at the same level as these sort of guys at their peaks and stuff. Bargnani, yeah. Sorry, Bargnani. A new-aged player, just not played very well. No offense. He was actually a pretty solid player. He probably could be a C-tier guy, but I'm gonna put him D-tier. Then we have Bogut. I think Bogut's definitely a lot better than a lot of people remember. Obviously, being a big man, having a lot of injuries, just sort of like Greg Oden. Actually had a pretty decent career, not gonna lie, but again, nothing super crazy. I think he was an all-star, I think at least once, if I do remember, but again, nothing super crazy on these guys' level. Yao Ming, I think Yao Ming, same boats, just a big plays back to the basket, very old style, big type of games, just injury prone. So I think these three guys are definitely in the same sort of category of being, good bigs that didn't just turn out the way they should have, and didn't really have like anything special to their game to where they didn't have to rely such heavily on just being a big guy. They didn't have any finesse, anything like that. Maybe Yao Ming a little bit, but these other guys, not really. Kenyan Martin. Kenyan Martin is interesting. He could definitely be argued as a C player. And you know what? I think I will actually. Kenyan Martin. If you guys look up Kenyan Martin's stats at his New Jersey days with those prime New Jersey Nets teams with like J. Kidd and Vince Carter, not a bad player. Could be a very good piece to a puzzle. Nothing super crazy, but not bad. Anthony Towns, I think Cat is actually a pretty decent pickup. I'm not gonna lie. Sure, is he not a very defensive big? No, but offensively very gifted. Almost a 30-point per game scorer. Can be probably a third, maybe even a second option on a championship-winning team one day. As of right now, way too early to sort of figure that all out. But I really like Cat. I really do. And I think he has that sort of potential of being that sort of type of player. Deandre Ayton, I think right now, I have no idea. I'm going to put him C for now. I'm going to go a little bit pessimistic, a little bit. I think he's really good, really solid. He could be a multiple-time All-Star, but I don't really see him being at like a Karl Anthony Towns level of being like a second go-to option on a title-winning team. I think he's really good, but I don't really see him being all that, because I don't really see him ever being a good defensive center where Cat shows flashes of that, but not consistently. Then we have Ben Simmons, and I think Ben Simmons actually does have a lot of potential of being a great piece to a title-contending puzzle. Obviously, just needing to add more of an offensive game. I'm not saying, oh my god, he has to start shooting threes. I'm not saying that. He just needs more oomph to the offense. He was only averaging like 12 or 15 points per game. I want to see that get boosted up to at least like 20. If he can average like 20, 8 and 8, like that is really good. And obviously, that much potential and that he has being a 6'8" point forward, like dude, he's one of the best defenders in the league. That's easily an A player, at least in my opinion. I think this guy's name is like Joe Smith or something like that. He got drafted in the 90s, maybe even early 2000s. I'm just gonna, I know who this is. I think his name's Joe Smith or something like a very generic name. But yeah, no offense. Yeah, no offense. Then we have Shaq, obviously big diesel, boom, S tier. The athleticism, the body, the dominance, everything that Shaq provided is in his entire career, even early on in his Orlando Magic day. I don't even need to discuss the great player that Shaq was for many years since he got drafted till, honestly, it's all about the early 2000s with the 2006 Miami Heat teams. Like, he was a dominant player for years. That's no doubt as a number one overall pick. You pray for that from a player like Shaq. That's an easy S tier guy. And then for Markelle Fultz, I think of Markelle as being, again, a very good player who has potential to be maybe an all-star a couple times, just like sort of like with Ayton. A lot of these guys on this list are sort of like those maybe all-star a couple times in a year at their peaks, but not being a sort of bigger piece to a puzzle like these guys up here who could have been without like injuries like with Blake, bad luck like with Chris Webber, or again injuries with John Wall. up on his team. Same thing with C-Web. Over time, they could have won a couple titles. I mean, we were just with Kyrie being a great number 2 option to LeBron James, who was an amazing player, or even just Cat with his potential. Who knows what could happen with him? C-tier guys are being good, maybe could have been all-stars. Their peak was, was good, but nothing to where we would really want them to be, our go-to guy or anything like that. And then our D-tier guys just didn't work out for them. So, yeah, that's going to be it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys leave a like on the video if you did, and subscribe to the channel. Very, 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 very close to 6K. And, yeah, that's going to be it for me. And I really hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night or whenever you're watching this video. And I'll see you again in my next one very, 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 very soon. Alright.